Iran has fired over 300 drones and missiles at Israel. It was the first ever direct attack between the two. Most of the projectiles were intercepted on the way. The Iranian attack came after Israel bombed Iran's embassy complex in Syria 2 weeks earlier. Regardless, Israel has vowed to retaliate for the direct attack. Unprecedented escalation is in the making, and armed conflict between America, Israel, and Iran seems closer than ever. However, if things go south and a full-out war erupts, Iran won't be standing alone. Its proxy network is vast. In the last couple of months alone, Iran's proxy militias have orchestrated the
Is this why he's a good potential leader? Yes, especially for a country like Iran. Because, you know, Iran has some issues with homophobia. Patrick Bet-David comes in and says, no more gay on television. Homosexuality rate in Iran drops to 0 tomorrow. Okay? Boom. Problem solved. Patrick Bet-David is in charge. No more gay stuff in Iran. They cut it out.
October 7th assault on Israel, they've hit American troops in Jordan and Iraq, and they've attacked commercial freighters crossing the Red Sea in addition to the submarine cables beneath it. In all, since the Gaza conflict, there have been more than 160 attacks on American troops. Biden's response has been timid at best. America's resources are stretched thinly, and Tehran seems to be a move ahead. So much so that it may as well file a patent on proxy warfare. Iran has funded, equipped, and trained its proxy militias in the region and pursues a strategy designed to decimate American and Israeli power. However, short-term victories can often have long-term consequences. While Iran may be spreading the ashes of conflict, it might end up inhaling the smog of its aftermath.
Isn't this dude Azeri? Like, no disrespect, but I mean, I don't know what's happening here, but I do feel like he might be a little bit more given the allegiance between Azerbaijan and Israel. I don't know what his takes are on Israel, but you know, Patrick Bet-David is more transphobic than the Ayatollah. No joke. That is true. Iran is like weirdly. Maybe a little too pro-trans, if you know what I mean.
What comes next for Israel is controversial, but it greatly depends on America's resolve. We know that Israel will respond since it needs deterrence. However, Biden is not on board with a counterattack, and White House officials are trying to spin Iran's
No, I'm not talking about Khomeini. I'm talking about this guy, Caspian Report.
attack as an Israeli victory because there was minor damage. Ground News, today's sponsor, helps me cut through the noise.
I mean, it'd be rude of me to assume that just because he's Azeri that he is like pro-Israel. I'm just saying that the video was like a little spicy on that front.
It gives access to local and regional sources for a more comprehensive perspective. I can compare headlines on the same story and see how different sources, sometimes even opposing sources, frame certain events.
One of the fucking
Ground
only
News provides
advertisers
you
that
with the
sponsors
tools to
political
consider
content
all these angles.
for obvious
For
reasons.
me, that is invaluable, and it's the reason I turn to Ground News whenever I read about current events. Go to ground.news/Caspian to get 40% off unlimited access to their Vantage
No, he's got to be not to
the one I
generalize
use to do
Azerbaijanis, but
my
come
analysis.
on. No, I'm not.
They
That's
really
like
are an
someone saying
invaluable
that
service,
I love the
and I
Armenian
can't
genocide or
recommend
something
them
because I'm
enough.
Turkish. I don't know. But
Iran
he is
and
talking
America
about
have been
Iran being
at
the
each other's
aggressor
throats
here,
for
kind of.
decades. But things have been heating up as of late. The war in Ukraine is eating up American resources, and whatever is left must stand by at the ready for the flashpoint that is Taiwan. For Iran, however, now is as good a time as any to overthrow the status quo. America can't be everywhere at all times.
Bro, if Iran was being opportunistic in this situation, they would have moved way faster post October 8. They had 6 months to take advantage of the instability. Why the fuck did they only strike after Israel struck and violated their sovereignty, struck their embassy and violated their sovereignty? It's just like, it's a very odd take to have. Like, oh yeah, America needs to worry about Taiwan. It's like, oh, America needs to worry about Taiwan and Ukraine is like depleting our resources. It's kind of funny to say this, especially at a time when like Ukrainian resources have been depleted as a consequence of America's larger interest in Israel and unconditionally defending Israel. It's just that, I don't know. I this is how it is always with like foreign policy Andes. Everybody that does like foreign policy YouTube essays always make it seem as though, I mean, they always channel a lot of the State Department propaganda. I don't know if it's because all of the resources that you have to rely on, if I'm being super charitable, every resource that you have to rely on, if you are genuinely interested in covering global conflict, is going to be from think tanks that are State Department cutouts. Okay, FDD and many of these other adjacent think tanks are comprised of former military industrial complex, current military industrial complex people, and therefore you end up, if you're like an Osen Andy, or if you're the type of dude who writes essays like this, and those are the most valuable resources, this part is true. I think that ends up basically shaping your attitude about regional actors. You always do so much America bad, you must get bored now. I mean, yeah, it is kind of boring to keep repeating why America is bad. You know what I mean? It's just, America keeps showing why they're bad over and over again. But as you guys know, I repeat myself at the top of the hour all the time. Up until October 7, Israel routinely congratulated itself about its skill in managing social media. Kiss that shit goodbye. Oh, yeah. Thank you for saying you love my shirt. You're still going to see the 3-minute ad break right now, unless you subscribe. Could you imagine, dude? Could you imagine if America was like, you know what? We're going to switch it up a little bit. We're going to do good things now. Okay? That would be crazy. That would be a crazy stream. It'd be opposite day streaming at this point. The real question is, don't people, you are a Zionist? Yeah, I am. I love Zionism. Anyway, the point I was trying to make is that like a lot of these dudes either channel State Department propaganda because like all the resources that they rely on for the most accurate coverage, is State Department cutouts, and they don't really recognize it, so they don't have like a little bit of skepticism that they need to exercise, healthy skepticism that they need to exercise when looking at those resources, or they just eat that shit up because it does well. Maybe they agree with it. You know what I mean? It corresponds to their previous biases, and they don't really re-examine that at all. It's one or the other.
But to understand how things reached this point, we need to rewind the clock to the 1979 Islamic Revolution. The US-backed monarch is overthrown, and the Islamic leadership seizes the US embassy, holding all 52 American diplomats hostage. For Iran, severing relations with Washington was critical to ensuring the success of the Islamic Revolution. After all, you can't wear the crown while kneeling to an outsider's throne. In the decades following, Iran's foreign policy focuses on...
Yeah, history famously started in 1979 for Iran, which was not like a 1,000-year-old empire before then, and went through many different forms of governance. 1953 is entirely unrelated to the process.
Rolling back the US presence across the Middle East. Conflicts in the periphery ebb and flow like relentless...
Thanks for dropping $500 anyway. Dude, I don't know what you guys... Why do you guys get mad on behalf of 34 MKD50? Like how are you getting mad on behalf of a chatter who is like a fucking consistent supporter? Like, what's it to you?
waves crashing onto the shore. Each wave presents Iran with an opportunity to expand its power. But this approach isn't about annexing territories, it's about creating vassals. By funding, training, and arming a crew of predominantly Shia militant groups across the Middle East, Iran cultivates a web of armed militias ready to execute its will, all while maintaining a veil of deniability. Yet, in the Islamic Republic's infancy, the US held the upper hand. Saddam Hussein emerged as a formidable rival, launching an invasion in 1980. It took 8 years, millions of deaths, and hundreds of billions of dollars to force both sides to the negotiating table. However, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. While the Iran-Iraq war was devastating, it brought Senior Assad's Syria closer to Iran. With Assad, Tehran nurtured its first proxy, Hezbollah. The Shia group was the first member of Iran's proxy network, commonly called the Axis of Resistance. Hezbollah has since grown into an influential political party in Lebanon and one of the most capable military forces in the region. It bolsters around 100,000 fighters, augmented by drones, tanks, artillery, and an arsenal of at least 130,000 rockets and missiles. At the heart of Iran's overseas ventures stands the...
How did they get so much support, I wonder? Hezbollah, I mean. How, Hezbollah, like how, what did they do? Will he mention what they were doing? Like, how did they become, how, I don't know anything about the situation. I'm just simply asking this question. Like, what was it was pure evil that caused them to be seen as, caused them to achieve success. What were their goals? What were their aims? To do evil.
Revolutionary Guards Corps, a formidable ideological paramilitary force that forms the backbone of Iran's power projection. Standing 150,000 strong, it's nearly half the size of Iran's national army. Within its ranks operates the infamous Quds Force, renowned for orchestrating, supplying, and training Iran's proxy assets across the region. Far from being a small fish in a big pond, the Quds Force has developed additional proxy groups in Iraq, especially after 2011 as US influence diminished. Iranian...
It almost feels like there's a consistent through line that is not really mentioned here, which is that, like, any kind of fundamentalist group gains a shit ton of prominence when there is some kind of Western involvement. And in this circumstance, I mean Israel. Israel being something that everybody understands in the region as a Western forward operating base for the United States of America's interest specifically. So when the Western forward operating base ends up doing, America shit, obviously the guys who are like, we're going to fight against that, gain a lot more prominence because all of a sudden there is a real reason. If it's kept up, if it's kept as simply like a civil war internally amongst different factions, whether it be Christian phalangists, whether it be Shia Muslims, Sunni Muslims, secular forces in the country, it's a whole different ballgame. But the moment that you have another guy kind of fucking up the situation for everybody else, utilizing the Dahiyya doctrine. Thank you, 34MKD50 with another 50 gifted subs. Jesus Christ.
Backed groups operate under the umbrella group Islamic Resistance in Iraq, which is about 35...
I will never forgive nor forget the fact that Hezbollah in Lebanon has motherfucking fiber optic internet and I don't, okay? They do and I don't.
5,000 to 75,000 strong and spearheaded by groups like Kataib Hezbollah, who are known for their persistent assaults on US interests in Iraq and Syria. In 2011, the winds of the Arab Spring swept across the Middle East, toppling regimes and sowing rebellion. It created the perfect storm for Iran to expand its influence. Amidst the upheaval, Iran seized the opportunity. It reached out to the Houthi rebels in Yemen to plant its influence deep within the Arabian Peninsula, particularly near its key adversaries, the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia, both of which boast robust economies, formidable military forces.
Why always play the victim card and use the excuse every Muslim country's problems? What do you want me to say? I literally described Lebanon as a country where there are multiple different religions and told you personally that there are also secular forces as well. And if kept simply as internal conflict, a civil war, if you will, the situation would be rather different. This is nothing. I am describing the situation to you personally of how Hezbollah gained prominence. And because you fucking have this hang up about it being a Muslim country, that you can't even understand what I'm trying to say. There is one consistent through line in every single one of these Muslim countries, and that is Western involvement. Western involvement causes destabilization. Western involvement causes instability. Western involvement then hardens the position of fundamentalists who are seen as the real, true anti-Western opposition to said Western involvement. This is how both in Iran or even in southern Lebanon or any other country really, more fundamentalist forces always end up gaining prominence. I don't have a problem with Muslim countries, but somehow it's always the West. If you don't recognize Western intervention being a legitimate reason for all of these countries, including even mine, as a matter of fact, the one that I came from, I don't know what to tell you. You just don't want to see the truth. This is why so many people have an issue with. This is why so many people have an issue. Well, you're from Israel, by the way. Okay, well, there you go. How did Israel become a country? It's important to understand that the U.S. directly supports Islamists as opposition to secular nationalists and leftists in the Middle East. They feared that the third world would stop giving them oil and ally with the Soviet Union. Islamists were the ones giving CIA support. Yeah, there's also that part of the equation as well. The problem here is that people refuse to recognize this intervention and its genuine consequences in the region and simply want to believe that, oh no, these guys are just like barbaric on their own. And then ironically, sometimes they'll show like liberal aesthetic pleasing footage from like Iran, you know what I mean, in like the 50s or the 40s. They'd be like, look how fucking modern this country was. Look, you got women in bathing suits and shit. And it's always like, yeah, dude. And then what happened? Or they do this in Egypt. They do this in Iran. They even do this in Afghanistan, which is ironic because like the Afghan communist supporting government was one of the more progressive ones. They did a lot of fucked up shit to the Muslims in general in Afghanistan, but still, you know what I mean? They show that as like the beacon of progress. And it's like, what happened? Do you think Islam was invented in like the 60s, the 40s, 50s? No Islam. How did so many of these countries have fundamentalists gain prominence and power? How did that happen? Let's not examine this question further. Okay, stop making it about Islam. Your people are killing Christian Arabs as well. Yeah, there's also that aspect of it too. It's not even just about Islam in general. It's not about religion at all, as a matter of fact. The West will destabilize the country for 40 years and prop up the most reactionary elements to then call you uncivilized. Yeah. And by the way, this is a little bit more about Islamophobia in general due to like, you know, the past 2 decades of steady Islamophobic propaganda to justify the war on terror. But there's a reason why we don't, like, Islamophobia is the reason why we don't heavily feature Latin American coups that worked in the identical capacity where we put the fucking Christo fascists in charge. The CIA alignment is always the same. Obviously, there are exceptions, but it almost always is the fucking same. Find the most psychopathic fascist right-wingers you can, give them arms, train them in the ways of torture and terror, have them fucking overthrow the democratically elected government, have them fight and kill a shit ton of people, even other churchgoers and nuns and shit too, depending on what flavor of the Latin American country we're talking about. And then, you know, reproduce the same results over and over again. It's just very shocking. But the reason why we don't talk about Latin American countries and coups in this similar vein as we do about like Islam is because of Islamophobia. Saying it's not about religion isn't saying much, though. Religion is a big factor. No, it's not. Religion is simply a tool. It is a way to galvanize large swaths of the population. Religion is on both sides of every conflict. I always use the same example when it comes to the Christian advocacy for slavery and how Christianity played a role in liberation theology and specifically the abolition of slavery in this country. Some of the most prominent anti-slavery activists that are considered radical terrorists, but they were correct at the time and they are correct now as well, like John Brown, were religious nutters. John Brown thought that he had a mission that God had given him to abolish slavery. Okay? Religion is just used as a tool. That's it.
And strong ties to America. The Houthis are a battle-hardened rebel group. They've been fighting the Saudi-backed government forces since 2014. Now, however, they act as Iran's missile platform. Since 2015, the Houthis have launched hundreds of drone and missile attacks against Saudi Arabia, Israel, and even the UAE. There is little objective data available on the Houthis, but their numbers sit around 200,000 strong, though not all are combat ready. Either way, between 10,000 and 30,000 Houthi fighters are believed to be loyal to Iran. And by recruiting the Houthis, Iran has gained strategic leverage and ensnared Arab resources, placing another piece on the region's chessboard. By and large, Iran recognizes the limits of its conventional military and, therefore, relies on asymmetric warfare through its proxies. It's a strategy that has proven so effective that the Syrian civil war stood as the only major trial to its ambitions.
I lose brain cells listening to you speak. I mean, I don't think I said anything that objectionable so far. I don't understand like what I have said here that would have caused you to lose brain cells. I would love for you to elaborate. Following September 11, saying is not allowed. I mean, maybe my perspective is different than yours because I grew up in a very religious family. Oh my God, every time. Okay, I can't duke it out with your own personal trauma from your own hyper-religious family's upbringing, okay? This is not my perspective. When I'm telling you something about religion being used as a tool and it's simply just ideology of a different variety, sure, it's dogmatic, but ideology nonetheless, that is an objective fact. It's not a different perspective from you. When I tell you that religion played a role. Christianity played a role in both the abolition of slavery and also the maintenance of slavery in the United States of America. That is an objective fact. I'm not personally giving you my analysis, or my own biased perspective. That is a fact. My biased perspective comes after that. Okay? The fundamentals that I derive my analysis off of are still correct, though. They are still objectively accurate historical facts.
The potential fall of Assad threatened to undermine Iran's grip on the Levant and blow a hole in its proxy network. Losing Syria would mean losing direct land access to Lebanon, where Hezbollah is situated. However, through an alliance with Russia, Iran was able to push back the Syrian rebel forces, securing Assad's position and effectively turning him into a vassal. A little to the south sits Hamas, another proxy of Iran. Since the October 7th attack, Hamas has lost manpower and territory to Israeli forces. Moreover, an estimated 28,000
This is a very interesting way to frame what Israel's been doing.
Palestinian lives
Just joined, but you should have brought up the Iranian guy who was the most secular and valid leader for Iran at the time that the US didn't like. I did.
have been lost since the start of the hostilities. Iran is the only clear winner in the conflict. The Hamas attack came at a time when Bahrain and the UAE, under American guidance, made historic moves to normalize relations with Israel through the Abraham Accords, with Saudi Arabia on.
It's just like saying that Hamas is an Iranian proxy is also kind of ridiculous. Hamas, one, did not start off as an Iranian proxy. It was a Muslim Brotherhood cutout. It was an Islamic charity originally. And just because Iran and Hamas are aligned, because Iran thinks that Hamas is a very valuable tool to use against the Zionist entity, does not change the reality that, like, they are obviously operating on their own volition. It's ridiculous. Hamas's existence is simply one of resistance to the Israeli apartheid. Like, it's not like Iran is controlling Hamas and going like, yeah, do October 7, please. That would be sick. It's crazy. Especially when the United States of America... Oh, fuck. I'm effing. Hold on. Hold. I'm still here. Okay. Is it raining in LA? No, it's actually beautiful. It's 77 degrees and sunny in Los Angeles right now. It's so awesome. Oh, it's effing again a little bit. Hold on. Hold. No, earlier he did say Iran told him to do October 7. Yeah, it's completely wrong. That's just objectively false. What is happening to my bitrate right now? What the hell? Shit is unstable as hell right now. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Chill. Chill. Hold on. What is going on, dude? My download is really fucking high. My upload seems high too. This might be like a Twitch related issue maybe. Are you now more mad that Hezbollah has fiber? I am. I'm big mad that Hezbollah has fiber. What is happening here? A little bit of micro Fs here and there, but I think it'll be fine. All right, I think we went through it.
On the verge of a similar breakthrough. Conversely, the Gaza conflict has reignited Arab-Israeli tensions with widespread regional outrage at Israeli actions. Seemingly, Tehran may have strategically sacrificed a pawn to prevent the formation of an anti-Iran coalition. In a daring response to the Gaza conflict, the Houthis launched boarding operations and drone and missile strikes on vessels navigating the Red Sea. The IMF reported that in January alone, these disruptions led to a
What the fuck? Bro, what the hell is happening right now? What is going on? Chill out, dude. It's like going up and down a lot. I don't know what it is. The video is lagging. And the audio is good, but the video is lagging. Yeah, it should be. I mean, it just goes in and out. It'll be fine in a second.
30% reduction in Red Sea shipping. Since then, the US Navy has intervened, but drone and missile strikes remain a threat. At large, the Houthi offensive seeks to twist America's hand in its dealings with Israel and the wider Arab world. Adding insult to injury, the Red Sea attacks marked the prelude to further assaults on US interests. On January 28th, at the Tower 22 base in Jordan, a ruthless strike left 3 American soldiers dead and 40 injured. Though the Islamic resistance of Iraq claimed responsibility, the Pentagon was quick to point fingers at Iran the next day, accusing it of arming the assailants and vowing to hold Tehran responsible. In response, America, with British support, unleashed precision strikes on 36 Houthi positions in Yemen. This was then followed by additional attacks on Iranian proxies in Iraq and Syria. Yet, while air power sends a powerful message, it often falls short of delivering a knockout punch. Iran's proxies are well acquainted with such air power tactics. They anticipate as much. Ergo, to dismantle Iran's extensive proxy network, America has but one choice: boots on the ground. Beyond offensive actions, the US has bolstered its presence in the region with an extra 3,200 troops, in addition to state-of-the-art Patriot and THAAD air defense systems, plus a naval task force. This military footprint serves as a signal to both Iran and US allies of America's commitment to regional security. Still, Iran's proxy attacks are meticulously timed. They capitalize on a critical election year in the United States and bank on American
Dude, this part is fucking ridiculous. This guy's reading a think tank script. Dude, this is ridiculous. It is like Iran didn't time this more than Israel did. Iran responded to Israeli escalation. What the fuck? Like, this is making Iran seem so brilliant, like, as a tactician. It weirdly enough is just like giving way too much props to Iran. What the fuck is this theory? Like, Iran knew that Israel would behave in a belligerent manner. Like, Iran knew that, like, Israel would strike their embassy. That's why they personally sent their IRGC top command to the embassy, knowing full well that they would die. Like, Iran is basically behaving like what's his name in Shogun? Sending his best friend Toranaga. Iran is basically Toranaga, Lord Toranaga coded, where they're saying like, listen, obviously I want to showcase how determined I am to give up my arms and how I'm not going to certainly restore the shogunate, which is why I obviously, if my best friend fucking commits seppuku, everyone will know inevitably that I'm interested in giving up my arms. Like, that's what Iran was doing. They were sending their IRGC generals knowing full well that they're going to fucking die. in that consulate, because Israel certainly will hit that consulate and violate Iranian sovereignty and give him a credence, give him give him an opportunity to strike back at Israel.
Obligations to multiple conflicts. So far, Biden has been cautious, but an electoral victory could encourage him to take a firmer
I
stance.
thought you were spoiling last night's episode and almost launched myself off my patio. No.
Trump would do the same, if not more. Nonetheless, there are bumps in the road to hegemony.
Yeah, that's the other part. Like, Iran, so smart, so brilliant, so good at tactics, but also doesn't recognize that the guy, Donald Trump, is going to advocate to nuke Iran. Like, what the fuck's happening here? I didn't get to the Iran episode of Shogun yet. Thanks, spoiled.
Despite Iran's influence, each proxy operates under its unique ideological banner. Deviations from Iran's strategic directives could disrupt its meticulous plans. For example, the recent attacks risk blowback. Washington could break off negotiations for the exit of its remaining 2,500 troops in Iraq. So,
yeah, dude, definitely. They were so interested. America was so interested in removing themselves from the region until Iran just went ahead and did it, dude.
Iran can walk on thin ice, but its proxies need to watch their step. And while Tehran is a formidable powerhouse, it is not without vulnerabilities. Like Yugoslavia before it, Iran's ethnic layout is its prime debility. American and Israeli policymakers are currently considering employing these internal divisions in hopes of bringing about the
Yeah, that's not even a joke, by the way. Yeah, we joke, but the guy who wrote Shogun also wrote a love story set in late Shah Revolution period called Whirlwind. Yeah, that dude wrote a lot about like East meets West, all the way to, I think, Afghanistan. So technically, if FX wanted to, they could literally continue the books. Yeah, the chatter is not wrong.
balkanization of Iran.
Wait, what? Wait, I stopped focusing on the video for a second. I'm sorry, what?
Iran's ethnic layout is its prime debility. American and Israeli policymakers are currently considering employing these internal divisions in hopes of bringing about the balkanization of Iran. Israel in particular has strengthened ties with Azerbaijan and shown interest in supporting Azerbaijani separatist movements within Iran. Ethnic Azerbaijanis number around 25 and 28 million, and they are mostly tucked in the north of Iran. If even a portion of that sizable number takes up arms against Tehran, it could spell disaster for Iran's statehood. For now, though, information operations are in their infancy. To peek at the future, one needs to look to Iran's east.
Wait, this video also says that Iran proxies are bad, but the US and Israel using destabilizing proxies is good. The liberal mind is astounding. No, it's not. It's actually quite simple. It just goes to good, bad dynamics. America good. America is always in the interest of good. Sometimes they do bad to do the good thing, but ultimately they're always good. Iran is always bad. Obviously, they're the big bad, and they want to do bad things. And, you know, even when they might be on the right side of a particular situation, they're still doing it in a bad interest. And we have to do bad things to defeat the bad guys. It literally is just good versus evil. That's it. That's how every liberal thinks at the end of the day. Like their moral foundation comes from a laughable, childlike analysis where our guys are good, their guys are bad. We have to sometimes do bad things to defeat the bad guys. It's very Marvel pilled, exactly. That's it. Once you recognize that, then you understand where a lot of this, a lot of the additional analysis is just built on top of that faulty premise.
Here, Iran is in a standoff with Pakistan. At the heart of the issue are militant Baluch separatists who make up the ethnic majority in the region and feel marginalized by both Tehran and Islamabad. On Iran's side, there is a Sunni Islamist insurgency, while the Baluch insurgency in Pakistan is a more secular nationalist movement. Either way, the ethnic insurgency has both Iran and Pakistan on edge. So much so that in January, Tehran launched unilateral strikes against Baluch separatists hiding in Pakistan. It was the first time Iran conducted an attack on Pakistani soil. 2 days later, Islamabad responded with airstrikes against Baluch separatists hiding in Iran. The tit-for-tat shows just how quickly and unexpectedly things can go south. For now though, as the dust settles, Israel will look to re-establish deterrence for Iran's direct attack. However, the level of support from America will determine whether the crisis escalates beyond just Israel and Iran.
The one factor that absolutely zero people consider in this equation is how much disdain, understandable disdain, every single ethnic group has towards the United States of America. Okay? This is what so many people, for some weird reason, when they're suckling on the liberal, neoliberal American imperialism teat, refuse to reckon with. It refuse to recognize in general. It's just that, like, America, and by extension Israel, are seen as outsiders, not because like Israel is Jewish or anything like that, even though it does oftentimes turn into anti-Semitism as well, certainly, for some. It literally always is just stop interfering in our affairs. There is no stronger way. There is no stronger way to unite someone other than turn around and say, these guys are fucking coming in and ruining our shit.
Regardless of how this plays out, Iran's proxies move.
Do you honestly want Iranian Shiite Islamic revolutions and influence to spread through the entire Middle East? Because that's Iran's goal if they aren't deterred by anything. Yeah, dude, that's what I want. You know, I as a person coming from a Sunni country, I want the true Islam to finally thrive, okay? I would like to be ruled by a mullah myself. That's my take.
Move across the periphery like a sandstorm covering America's footprints. But proxy warfare
You're an
always
internationalist, so you support Iran exporting its revolution? Yeah.
cuts both ways. Iran may yet win the battle, only to lose the war. I've been your host Shirvan from Caspian Report.
Yeah. It's weird though, because like Hamas are Sunni, Palestinians are Sunni, and yet they're also a proxy of the Iranian Shiite regime. Is that what's going on? It's just undialectical to think Iran could just take over the Middle East as baby brain shit. Yeah, I know. But, you know. But have you considered that they are the big bad?